welcome back for episode number 168 of the weekly playback. It's been a very long time because I was away for a couple of weeks in Iraq, which I'll talk about later in this video and share some photographs. So in the last week since coming back, I've only played 2 games, but hopefully, that number will increase beginning with this coming week. So let's just get started. Let's talk about Etherstone. This is a 2025 game for 2 to 4 players designed by Virginio Gigli and Simone Luciani, and the art is done by Paolo Voto, and it's published by Thundergriff Games. And this is a review copy which I received from Asmodee USA. So this is a hand management game, and if you've played Res Arcana, kind of similar to that, which is another game I played recently. So that's something that you might be able to compare it to. So in this game, and I played a 4-player game, so I'm going to talk about a 4-player game when I talk about it. First, you're going to prepare a threat deck. So there's level 1, 2, and 3 threat level cards, and so depending on player count, you'll have a certain number of each, with level 3 at the bottom, level 1 at the top, and you'll be revealing 3 cards. So 3 cards will always be on display from this threat deck. And one of the game end triggers is when there's no more cards to draw from your threat deck in order to display. You're going to have a leader card. You'll be dealt 2 leader cards, and then you'll choose one to keep. I recommend looking at these before you start your draft of entity cards so that you can kind of get an idea of what leader card will go with the entity cards that you're drafting. So everyone will be dealt 7 entity cards, and they're all different types. So you have like ritual cards, you have follower cards, technology cards, and so on. So you're going to be doing a draft. So from your hand of 7 cards, you'll pick one, keep one, and then pass the 6 over to your left. And then from the 6 that you receive, you'll keep one and then pass the remaining 5. And you're going to keep on doing this until you have 7 cards. And those are the 7 cards that you will be working with for the entirety of the game. So you're not going to get any more cards throughout the game. All right, so once you have your 7 cards, then you're going to decide which leader you want to keep. And again, you want a leader that will work well with the cards that you have in your hand. In the center of the table, you're going to see these 4 rings, and inside these rings, there are going to be matching dice. So you'll have rolled these dice and then put the matching colors inside of the rings. And then the purple one will stay in the center. And you have Etherstone tokens, which match up with the dice colors, except for the purple, because the purple is a wild. There are some other components. So there are these void pack tokens, and I'll talk about what those are, but if you ever use one, you will, it's -7 for each one you used. And you have these counter tokens, which you might be able to put on one of your followers or your leader during the game, and we'll talk about what those do later. And then you have point tokens, and there's going to be a pool of point tokens in the center of the table. And once that pool is depleted, then you have your surplus pool. But once the main pool of point tokens is depleted, that's one of the game end triggers. And the number of point tokens available in a game depends on player count. So now let's talk about playing. So on your turn, you're going to do one of the following actions. You're either going to do a dice draft, cast, you're going to attack, rest, or void pact. So dice draft, what does dice draft mean? So that means you're going to take one of the 5 available dice. If you're the first player, there will be 5 available dice, and you're going to take one of them and then take 2 Etherstones matching that die color. However, if you take the purple in the table, in the center of the table, then you can take any color you want, but they have to, the 2 Etherstones you take have to be of the same color. However, if you take the purple die, you have to lose 1 life point on your health dial. So everyone has a health dial, which you are going to set equal to the health level of your leader. So you will see your leader's health level up here. So that is what you would set it to at the beginning of the game. Your leader might have a special ability of their own, and then they have their like defense shield number here. So, depending on your leader, for example, this one doesn't have a special ability, but it has a higher defense value for battles. So it has a lower health here, but no special ability. And each leader card will show you which Etherstones you start with as well. So, you will have variable player powers depending on your leader, and your life dial will be set at a different number depending on your leader. So again, if you take the purple die, it's a wild, so obviously there's really no reason to take this if all the other 4 colors are available, because regardless of the number on the die, you only get 2 Etherstones of the color. So why would you pick a die with a certain number on it? Like, what do the numbers mean? That will become relevant as you start casting cards. So we talked about dice draft. That's one of the actions you can do. Casting is another action you can do. You can play one of the 7 cards from your hand by paying the cost indicated on the card, which is this. So this one would cost 2 red Etherstones and 2 wild Etherstones. So 2 Etherstones of any color. So if you're casting, you pay the cost in Etherstones and then place it in front of you. So now this card is in play. And then the card might give you an ongoing ability, which this one does. So this one gives an ongoing ability, and it also says if you draft a die that is red, then this takes place. So if you draft a red die, you get to place, I believe that's a counter token, that symbol, but let me just double check. You can place, yes, you can place a counter token or remove a counter token and cast a card. So these cards will give you different ongoing or special abilities or one-time abilities when you play them. So for example, this one, when you play it, it'll give you an immediate ability of attack. So you'll be able to attack instead of doing it as a separate action, because on your turn, you can only do one action and attacking is an action. However, if you cast this card, it will allow you to immediately attack, but you still have to follow all the rules for attacking. It's also going to give you like some defense when you're attacking based on this. So let me show you a card that has a die on it. So this is a card I actually had in play. So if I ever drafted a die that had a value of 1 to 2, then this says I could cast a what is that symbol? I don't remember. A ritual card, additionally paying a green Etherstone. So if I ever drafted a die that had a value of 1 to 2 on it while performing a dice draft action, then this would come into effect. Some of them, so that's a range of 1 to 2. However, some of them will give you the exact number. So for this one, for this to come into effect, if you drafted a die that had the number 4 on it, then this ability would come into effect. So that's when numbers on the dice come into play. But when you're actually doing the dice draft action, you only get 2 Etherstones of that color regardless of the number on the die. So now we've talked about dice draft and cast. The other action you can do is attack. So this is when you try to overcome a threat from the display using your leader and or followers. So it's highly recommended that you only use follower cards if you can, because if you use your leader card, your leader is automatically going to take damage depending on the threat card that is on display. So if you use your leader card, your leader will always take damage based on this number. However, the number that you're trying to beat is this number. So if you have followers in play, and again, there's different types of cards. So these cards, so for example, if you can see here, this is a ritual card, whereas these are follower cards. So follower cards are cards that will be used in battle, and they have strength values at the bottom. So you want your strength values at the bottom to surpass the value on the threat card that you are trying to defeat. And if you can't, then you're not allowed to do that attack action. So you cannot do an attack action if you can't actually defeat the threat that you want to defeat. I mean, that seems kind of obvious, but the rulebook actually states that as well. Because like, why would you even do that then? So once you defeat a threat, the followers and even leader, if you used your leader, will be turned sideways to indicate that they are exhausted. Their abilities will still be in play, their special abilities. So if you have any special dice numbers here available, those are still in effect. However, they cannot be used for attacking until they're readied again. And then once you defeat a threat card, you obviously get to do what's on it, or, it might give you a special ability of some kind and so on. And then you would keep it, and then that's going to be points for you at the end of the game. So you are defeating these threats to gain points and also special abilities and so on. And the cards that you're casting also have point values on them, some higher than others, depending on, whether the card is a really good card, a powerful card, or not, so on and so forth. Okay, so now we've talked about attacking. Another thing you can do is rest as your action. So you can ready your exhausted followers so that they are ready to attack again. And then finally, the last thing you can do is Void Pact. So you become corrupted if your life dial reaches 0. And if you're corrupted, you have to do a void pact, which means you have to take one of these tokens and then reset your life dial to what your leader's life is. So that is doing a void pact. And again, these are worth -7 points at the end of the game. And there's going to be other players who have cards that will affect your life. Like anytime one of our opponents did something, everyone else lost a life. So, you know, other players' cards will be affecting you as well. So again, that's essentially the game. So you're just basically going to be casting cards, trying to collect Etherstones in order to cast cards, trying to get the followers you need with the strength in order to, you know, defeat these threats and so on. And you also want to get a good engine going. So I got a really good engine going that got me points as well as red Etherstones. So I had a card that said that anytime I drafted a die with a value of 5 or 6 for each for each follower I had, I would gain a point, and then I would gain 1 red Etherstone, which was amazing. So I had 3 followers in play. It was Whisperers, actually. Sorry, it was Whisperers. So I believe it was 3 Whisperers that I needed to activate that ability, and I had 3 of them. So I would gain 3 points anytime I took a die that had a 5 or 6 value, and I would gain an additional red Etherstone in addition to the Etherstones matching the color of the die I took. So that was really great. So I ended up getting quite a number of points that way. However, I was more focused on that rather than defeating threats, I would say. I only defeated 1 threat. So in the end, I didn't end up with enough points to win. So let me just talk about the end game triggers before I tell you what the final scores were in the game I played. So the end game triggers. So, end game check setup. So yeah, the end game is triggered if any of the following conditions are met. You have no entity cards left in your hand during this step of the turn. Due to card destruction abilities, you may have fewer than 7 cards in play at this time. There are no cards remaining in the threat deck. This trigger happens even if there are 3 threats in the display. The points tokens pool is empty. So if the end game is triggered during your turn, take the end game trigger token and place it in your area, because again, that is worth a point at the end of the game. And then everyone will finish until everyone has had the same number of turns. Then end game and final scoring. So you're going to add up your points by doing the following. So points equal to the number of your point tokens that you collected during the game. 2 points if you have the end game trigger token, so it's actually worth 2, not 1. All points in the top right corner of your in-play entity cards. So any cards you did not end up casting that are not in play do not count. Points for each endgame ability on your in-play entity cards. Some of them would have in-game abilities, so you'll get points for those. Endgame abilities, sorry. All points in the top left corner of the threats in your spoil stack, so any threats you defeated. 1 point for every 2 remaining life on your dial, -7 for each void pact token in your area, and -3 points if you are currently corrupted. So if you manage to get corrupted but were not able to, so obviously if it's the end of the game and you're corrupted, you don't want a void pact token anyway, because you're going to lose fewer points if you're corrupted than if you take a void pact token. So yeah, and then whoever has the most points will win. So if you've played Res Arcana, this game, will definitely remind you of Res Arcana. So it's not like I'm a Res Arcana expert or anything. I actually just played it for the first time right after playing Etherstone. So yeah, and we did that just because, the friends I was playing with knew that both games were kind of similar. So we wanted to be able to compare them after playing both of them in one game night. So that was fun. But I really enjoyed this game. I sleeved the cards because I happened to have sleeves that were of this card size, which is French tarot, and I thought that the cards themselves, the material, would just be a little bit hard to shuffle, so I sleeved all the cards. But after playing it, I've decided that this is a game I would like to keep. I really enjoyed it. I think that the artwork is really, really cool on these cards. And I just think it's a really great game with a lot of variability, so I think it's one that's going to stay in my collection for at least, the near future. I have a lot of games. It may get culled someday in the future, but for now it's staying in the collection, and I really enjoyed my play of it. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should definitely check it out. So again, that was Etherstone from Thundergriff Games, and this was a review copy which I received from Asmodee USA. So thank you so much to Asmodee for sending this my way. So another game I played recently is Res Arcana, which is a 2019 game for 2 to 4 players designed by Thomas Lehman, and the art is done by Julian Delval, and it's published by Sandcastle Games. I do not own this game, but I just want to talk about it briefly because it's similar to Etherstone, and I really enjoyed my play of Res Arcana. I had never played it before, so in this game you're trying to collect like different so you're like an alchemist and you're trying to collect different kinds of ingredients. I'll call them ingredients or essences, I guess. You start the game with a certain number of essences. You start the game with a certain mage, which has a certain ability. And then on your turn, you are basically like, you know, trying to get different cards by turning in, like activating different cards and playing them in front of you by turning in different ingredients, essences, and those cards will have like special abilities and so on. You can impact other players. You know, there's scrolls in this game that can give you special abilities. You know, there's a bit more going on in this game than Etherstone, which I really enjoyed. So at, you know, at the end of each round, there's like, you can pass if you feel like you're done doing things or that you can't do anything else. And when you pass, you would turn in one of the tiles that you have and then take another one. And those tiles kind of give you like a special ability of some kind. So yeah, I just felt like it was a more interesting game than Etherstone. I feel like I'm doing a really bad explanation of it without it in front of me. It's kind of hard to explain everything, but I just want to say that I think I would rank this above Etherstone. In terms of play, I just enjoyed it more, and I really like the theme of it as well, which is like magic, alchemy, and stuff like that. And, you know, I just thought it was a really good game and just more flexibility in what you can do in this game, because it's not just constrained to the 7 cards you have in your hand, or however many cards it's in Res Arcana. I can't remember, but it's a similar concept where you have a certain number of cards after a draft, and those are the only cards you're going to have. But then there are these like other building kinds of tiles and other kinds of cards that you can acquire, which you can use. So there's definitely going to be more flexibility in this game in terms of what you can do when you're playing, which I really, really enjoyed. So yeah, so you know, I feel like if you enjoyed Res Arcana, you would enjoy Etherstone. If you've only played Etherstone, I would highly recommend that you play Res Arcana, because you might even end up liking it more than Etherstone, which I did. I don't feel the need to add it to my collection since I have Etherstone now, and my friend owns Res Arcana, but I would definitely be down to play it again. I really enjoy it. So I just wanted to briefly talk about that before we move on. So let's move on. So I'm currently not backing anything. I feel like I haven't backed anything in a long time. I cannot remember, actually. I feel bad. I don't remember if I ever mentioned this, but I did end up backing a game from Hakan Holgarter. I always tend to forget GameFound, so if I'm backing something on GameFound, it kind of just totally slips my mind. But Hakan Holgarter, who is one of my favorite designers, he's actually the designer of Yonder, and then the loose trilogy of Villagers, Moon, and Streets. So he had designed a game and self-published a game called Deco, which I had backed on GameFound, and I only just remembered it because I just completed my pledge manager for that like recently, I think. I can't remember, or at least I got an email saying, like, because I decided to pay in installments, which is one of the nice things about GameFound. So that just crossed my mind recently, and I don't think I had ever mentioned that I had backed that game from him, but I did. But I'm currently not backing anything at the moment that I know of, which is good. But in terms of new arrivals, I had received Etherstone from Asmodee as a review copy, and another review copy I received from them is The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers trick-taking game. So I had purchased the first one, The Fellowship of the Ring, on my own, but this one is a review copy. And I requested this as a review copy because I enjoyed the first one that I played. We didn't get through all of the chapters, and I can't remember if I even discussed it in any of my videos, but I did purchase it and played a couple of chapters of that one, and I enjoyed it. And I've actually never read the books, but I've watched the movies, and I of course really love the movies, so I do enjoy the Lord of the Rings universe, but I don't think I'm ever going to end up reading the books, to be honest, just because the writing style just doesn't kind of appeal to me. But I'm excited to play this one, so I'll just show you a little peek inside. Obviously I'm not going to show too much because I don't want to like spoil the chapters and stuff, but here is the rule book, and then the inside looks like this. So I really appreciate how they have these things so that you can like just pull out the cards easily. I remember one time I had a board game where I tried creating something like this myself and then totally just ruined the box while I was trying to like add ribbons and like use glue and tape and God knows what, and I just totally ruined the inside of a box when trying to create something like that of my own. So I appreciate it that it comes pre-made like that. And then you of course have these cards, and yeah, so like I said, I don't want to show too much because you know, it's a chapter by chapter kind of book, so but I'll just show you a peek at the fronts of these cards. So yeah, I mean, if you enjoy Lord of the Rings and you enjoy trick-taking games, then this is a game that you might enjoy. And I'm not going to show you the rest of the chapters because of spoilers, but I'll just show you some of the tokens it comes with. So it comes with these 2 towers. Very cool. And then these 4 tokens. And then in the other sections of the box, there are more tokens included, I believe, if I remember correctly. So like one of these, if you open it, has like, yeah, this one, part 2, if you open it, has like some big kind of token in it and then some smaller tokens. Looks like the ring. So that's cool. So yeah, so obviously a standalone game that you can play standing alone, apart from the first game, but kind of like a continuation to the first trick-taking game. Another game I received recently is my production copy of Baghdad, which is very cool because I love Fabio Lopiano's games, and I just recently was in Baghdad. So really happy to have received my production copy for covering this game for its Kickstarter, and this is like the deluxe version with the deluxe components and everything. So I'll just show you some of the components, not all of it because it's a lot and I just have a lot to discuss, but there comes with a little baggie in which you would place the city tiles, the city tokens. So this one, it comes with, in the prototype, the pieces for the center were not that nice, but these are really nice. Like, I feel like that these are really nice. They're like screen printed and everything. And then these gates and the dome and stuff, really nice. Metal coins, very cool. And then it comes with, if you have the deluxe version, it comes with these really cool acrylic pieces. And they're pretty thick. You can see how thick that is, like, wow. So these are just super duper nice, these acrylic tiles. And then the different player components, screen printed on both sides, both sides, very cool. So I am just, and if you have the deluxe version, it comes with the custom sleeves, and these sleeves are really cool because I just want to, you know, of course they have the same back as the cards, but this one is really cool because there's actually a cutout, like a clear part of the sleeves here so that you can see the number of what's on the card. So like that. So that I thought was really cool. Like, those are very cool custom sleeves. And as a sleever, I definitely would want to sleeve this game because I know that this is a game that I absolutely love and would want to, you know, keep in pristine good condition. So yeah, so really excited to have received this, and I do hope I'll get a chance to play it again sometime soon. I don't anticipate being able to cover any more games from Alley Cat in the future because, you know, as I've kind of mentioned before, the owner of the company just kind of ghosted me, but that's another story. If you want to hear the details, you can always privately message me and I can tell you all the details about that. But yeah, so this was probably the last game that I'll have covered for Alley Cat and the last review copy that I would have received from them. So don't anticipate being able to cover any more of their games in the future. And again, if you're curious as to why, you can message me and I'll tell you the story. But I don't want to talk about it here on this video. So anyway, so that is that. I think that those are all the review copies or new arrivals I have to show. So let's move on. So in terms of games I'm culling, I recently saw a post on one of the board game buy sell trade groups of someone looking for Scarface 1920, and I got so excited because I have like the all-in of Scarface 1920. It's a huge game and it has yet to be played. I've not even unboxed the expansion. I did unbox the base game when I got it like more than a year ago, but it's never been played. The expansion stuff is still in shrink, which I had absolutely regretted backing. So when someone was looking for it, I got really excited, but then they saw someone else selling the all-in, which and they ended up agreeing to buy someone else's instead of mine, and I was a little bit disappointed with that, but I think I'm going to try selling it. So I just don't anticipate being able to play it, and it's one of my regrets of getting it. It's one of those games I regret getting because it's like I don't need every game, and yes, the theme appealed to me, but it's like a huge game. It's going to take many hours to play. I don't even know when it'll get tabled, if ever. So I'm going to start listing a bunch of stuff on this board game buy sell trade group on Facebook. I think it's called Board Game Buy Sell Trade. I don't even know what it's called. I can't remember, but I think it's owned by Board Game Revolution Community, this specific group. So I'm going to try to like sell a lot of games there. And then for people who have won games from me, I'm going to also send you guys photographs and see if there's anything you're interested in. And I'll continue with giveaways starting next week because I haven't had a chance to really figure out what game I want to give away next. But hopefully with next week's video, I will do that. So just wanted to give a quick update on that. So let's move on. So it's a new year and maybe we need to do things a little bit differently. So I want to get your guys' feedback about my channel and the videos. Would you prefer that I separate the game explanations into standalone videos with you know, just like one game per video. So like if I'm talking about Etherstone, just have a short video in which I talk about Etherstone as a separate video, and it would be in a separate playlist. It wouldn't be as part of this weekly playback then, but in part of the weekly playback would still be games that I've received, games that I'm backing. I would still have a question of the week related to the games I talked about. And you know, it would still include the book clubs and all the other stuff that I just chat about usually. So let me know your thoughts about that. I've actually received a suggestion more than once that I should convert my videos into podcasts. I'm not sure I have the time to do that, to be honest. I'm not sure I have the time to, you know, make it into an audio file, which I don't even know how I would do, into a really good quality one and then upload it as a podcast. But that's something that had been suggested to me a couple years ago as well. And then again, more recently, and I'm not sure that I have the time or the technological know-how to do that. Another suggestion I received, and this is one that I also received more than once, is that I should have a whole separate channel for my politics and stuff like that. So, you know, my ranting and raving about politics that I do in my weekly playback and, you know, the indifference of the board gaming community, you know, people are like, well, maybe you should just start a separate channel for that. And to that I say, I think that would kind of defeat the purpose of why I rant and rave about it in my weekly playback, because it is the hypocrisy and the double standards and the indifference that I see in the board game community. So I'm always trying to tie it back to that based on my own personal lived experiences in this community starting in 2021 for being outspoken about Israel and Palestine up until now, and you know, just seeing just all the hypocrisy of people who claim to care about human rights but still support Zionists and so on. So the reason I rant and rave about it in my weekly playback is because I do feel it's part of the board gaming community, and I just feel like I'm kind of on a mission to expose people in the board gaming community for the hypocrites that they are. Just, you know, I have like my own personal vendetta. And yes, maybe I'm a bit petty, but like the way I was treated in 2021, I am going to point out hypocrites and I'm going to point out the double standards that exist because this industry is full of it and I think it's absolute shit. And, you know, and having gone to Iraq recently, I will say that I feel like I'm a part of two separate communities that will never, ever merge. So, you know, I'm a Muslim woman. You know, I consider myself to be a devout Shia Muslim woman, and that is a big part of my identity. And that will never, ever overlap with my identity in the board gaming community, I feel like. And it's just, you know, me ranting and raving about politics in my weekly video, it's just kind of a way for me to try to bring the two together because my identity does matter to me, and I see that my identity, like people like me, our lives don't matter to the vast majority of people in the board game industry. And since the board gaming, you know, my identity as a board gamer and content creator also matters a lot to me. So that's why I rant and rave about that stuff in my weekly videos. And I don't see the point of creating a whole new channel because I'm like, who the hell's gonna like watch that? Who's gonna tune into that? Like there are so many other channels who talk about, you know, Palestine and geopolitics and all of that much more eloquently than I do, who are much more educated on the topics than I am. So like, why would anyone tune in to watch a channel channel in which I'm only discussing politics and ranting and raving when there are literally hundreds or thousands of other people doing it and doing it better than I am. So that's why I think I will continue to have my rants of the week in my weekly playback, because I always tie it into the board gaming community anyway, in some way. It's just, again, just a way for me to kind of try to make my two identities come together and create a space for someone like myself in this industry, and show how someone like myself in this industry actually is not really welcome, is not, this industry really truly is not inclusive to people like me. But anyway, I would love to hear your feedback about my channel, what you would like to see. Do you want to see the board game discussions separate from the weekly playback? Let me know your thoughts. Again, the weekly playback, then I would summarize which games I talked about. So I would just briefly mention, like this week, you'll see videos about these games. And again, the videos would be separate. And I would include them in a separate playlist, like how to plays or whatever. And then the weekly playbacks would include games I've received, games that I'm backing, the book clubs, my discussion of cats, my rants of the week, and question of the week. So let me know your thoughts on that. I would appreciate your feedback. Yeah, so let's move on. So it's mid-January and I haven't done my top 10 of 2025 yet. I hope I will have time this coming week to shoot it and upload it at some point this coming week. But I just wanted to mention that I do intend on doing a top 10 of 2025, and I'll probably be the last content creator to release her top 10 list, just because of me being away in Iraq and everything, and I was so busy. So now let's talk about Iraq. So as you guys know, I went to Iraq for 2 weeks, which was quite an amazing experience, except for the time that I was sick. So I just want to talk about my trip and share some photos, because I know that some people requested photos and I wasn't sure how to share them. So I figured I would just talk about my trip and then just stick them up here. But if you would prefer to see them in another format, like me just posting them somewhere and making that accessible, then please let me know. But anyway, I'm just scrolling back in my journal, because I keep a one line a day journal, which, I just kind of recap what I did during the day, which is going to kind of help me refresh my memory about Iraq. Although I will mention I was sick for like the vast majority of the trip. So the vast majority of the trip was me just being confined to a hotel room, which was really not fun. Okay, so we arrived in Iraq on Monday, but it was late at night, so didn't really do anything. So the first full day I had in Iraq was Tuesday, which was December 23rd. So during this day, we took a tour of the old Baghdad, and where we saw a lot of like the old Ottoman buildings, some really cool like streets with lots of old buildings that have been preserved as well as they can be. We visited like the oldest tea shop in Baghdad, which was really cool. Just a lot of history associated with that, including a car bombing in which the owner's 3 sons were killed during the time that the US was occupying. I believe it was during that time. Baghdad. We saw, lots of interesting things. We saw a house that was owned by a famous Jewish, I don't know if they were famous, but it was owned by a Jewish person a long time ago. Just a beautiful house, and it's now been turned into like a restaurant, but you can just go inside and see all the beautiful architecture and everything. Just, the houses like that, they have like a courtyard in the center. It had like 3 stories, just really nice. So that was really cool to see. What else did we see in Baghdad? What else did we visit? Saw the was it the Tigris or the Euphrates? I think it's the Tigris River that runs by Baghdad. So yeah, the Tigris River, got some really cool views of that. Just really, imagining what it was like back in the day. Just really cool seeing, these old buildings and roads and stuff like that, just seeing how people live day to day. And, we got to go through the bazaars and see, all the different shops and stuff like that. I came across different shops in the bazaar selling board games. Some of them looked counterfeit, some of them did not look counterfeit. But that was interesting, just seeing the different board games that were being sold, including an expansion of Catan. Like, that was really interesting. Saw a lot of Uno games being sold, some counterfeit, some looked legit. What else? Baghdad, so there's the old part where you'll see like the bazaars and, just the hustle and bustle of people in the bazaar and this and that. But then there's like the really modern parts of Baghdad. So like the hotel we were staying in, completely modern, like, you know, and really good buffet for breakfast and everything, and really good restaurant. And then, you know, there's so many really like modern luxury malls. We visited, you know, a few of these places. There was like Christmas decor throughout all of Baghdad, like so many beautiful Christmas trees and everything. But yeah, but like the luxury places are like super luxurious. Like on our last day in Baghdad, at the end of the trip, we went to Motto, which is like a restaurant that I think I've seen in Turkey even, like an ice cream place and a dessert place, but also sells regular food, but super high-end, like luxurious kind of place. So yeah, so you know, I don't want people to think that Baghdad or Iraq is like a third world place where you're not going to see nice things. Like some of the things you see are going to be nicer than the things you would see in the USA even, for example. So yeah, so just really nice to see all of that. The people in Iraq are incredibly kind and helpful. So for example, like my mother, when, so it was me, my two sisters, and my mother who traveled. So my father passed away in 2010. So that was a long, long time ago. So that's why he's never mentioned. But my mother, she has really bad arthritis. So she, when we go on vacations or anything, she usually uses a wheelchair because she can't walk like long distances. And the people are just so helpful with the wheelchair. Like everywhere we went, people were like offering to help push and do this and that, like just so incredibly kind and helpful. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. We had a tour guide, an Iraqi tour guide, and he is a school English teacher in Iraq, a high school English teacher, just really funny guy, really nice guy. So he, you know, took up being a tour guide as kind of like a side position, a side job, and it helps him out financially. And he was just, you know, a pleasure to have us it was just a pleasure to have him show us around. So, you know, we would get in his car and he would drive us around and take us to places, whatever. So the first day was spent completely in Baghdad, and the end of the day, my little sister wanted to do some shopping, so we went to one of the high-end malls, which again, as I mentioned, very like luxurious and nicer than a lot of malls you'll see in America, to be honest. So anyway, so we did that. Then the next day we left for Najaf. So that would be Wednesday, December 24th. We left for Najaf. And this night, the first night, we went to the shrine of Imam Ali, who is a very important figure in Islam, but especially for Shia Muslims, which is what I am. So he was the cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet. And for the Shia Muslims, he was the first Imam. And for the Sunnis, he was the fourth Khalifa. So very important figure, and he's buried in Najaf. So this is a really important site for Shia Muslims especially. So I was able to go to the shrine on Wednesday night and do a ziyarat, which is like basically a visitation of his shrine, perform special prayers and do all of that. So that was really great. And then I came back to the hotel, and the hotel, very luxurious, very nice. And the buffet, like these hotels have buffets where you eat. So for pilgrims who are coming to Najaf or Karbala, the hotels are really like nice hotels, and they have buffets where you will eat your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the amount of food available, like the variety of food, absolutely insane. Like I had stayed once at a kind of like a high-end resort in Tenerife many years ago, and that had a buffet, and that buffet did not even compare to the buffets in these hotels in Iraq. Like unbelievable, the amount of stuff available. So, but I must have eaten something bad, because as soon as getting back from the shrine, got like food poisoning, and I was out for the next like 5-6 days. So the next 5-6 days I had to be in my hotel room in close proximity to a bathroom at all times. I was absolutely miserable. I actually lost 10 pounds because of my food poisoning and the sickness, or whatever it was, norovirus, I don't know what it was, but I was really sick and lost quite a bit of weight from being sick, which is a perk to being sick, because I wanted to lose a bit of weight anyway. Don't need to get into that, but yeah, so that was a little bit of a perk from being sick, I suppose. But yeah, so I was sick. So then the next day, on the 25th, so let me just pull up, because they had all these cool things planned, which I could not do. So on the 25th, we were supposed to go to let's see, is it the 25th? I'm trying to, let me see. Why is this all messed up? Let me just yeah, so December 25th. Oh yeah, so December 25th, we were supposed to visit Masjid Kufa, which is one of the 4 holiest mosques in Islam. And this is the place where Imam Ali, I believe, is that where he was killed? I can't remember. But this is a place that is considered to be, let's see, it says, yeah, it's so yeah, I guess there's lots of holy people or people important in Islam who are buried near Masjid Kufa, but I couldn't go to that obviously because I was sick. And there was a chance to meet Ayatollah Sistani, who is an Ayatollah. I missed that chance because I was sick. So yeah, so did not get to do that. So that was going to happen on December 25th, but I was sick and just confined to my hotel room, so missed out on all of that. Then December 26th, oh, this is when they were going to visit the largest cemetery in the world, which is Wadi Salam. So this is called the Valley of Peace, and it contains the graves of 2 biblical prophets. And I don't know their English names, but they're prophets who are even mentioned in the Bible, but it supposedly contains their graves. And yeah, so there was a visit to this cemetery, which I unfortunately missed, but it looks really cool from photos, so I'm sad that I missed that. So yeah, so that is something I missed. And then I also missed a visit to some other important mosques that are important for Shia Muslims as well, so I missed that on the 26th as well. Then on the 27th, I'm still sick, which is now Saturday, and this is when we're leaving for Karbala. So I was really nervous about getting on a bus because I didn't know how I would fare on this bus going to another city, which, you know, is 2 hours away, though halfway we made a stop at some important historical site, a mosque, where another ancient prophet is also buried. And I did end up vomiting while we were at the mosque during the stop, but luckily I didn't have to run to the toilet for, you know, the other end. So made it to Karbala, and then when I made it to Karbala, I ended up going to the hospital because, you know, I guess this is day 3, or is it day 2 or day 3 of me being sick, and I'm completely depleted of fluids. I couldn't even keep any fluids down. So if I would drink something, I would actually there was water that I was drinking that everyone else was fine with, but whenever I would take in this water, I'd end up vomiting it all up. It's just very bizarre. So I couldn't keep down any fluid. So I ended up going to the hospital, the ER in Karbala, as soon as we got there. And that was an interesting experience. I will say that, you know, I was seen pretty quickly. When they found out what my issue was, they said I had to have a consult with the GI specialist first. And then so I went to see the GI specialist, which was all within the same hospital. Really nice hospital, by the way. Imam Zamana Hospital, I think it was called, or was it Imam Zainul Abidin Hospital? I don't remember the name of the hospital, but it was just really nice. And, you know, the doctor, she saw me, so then she's like, yeah, you can get an IV, and I'm going to prescribe some medications, and the pharmacy is right within the hospital as well. So then I went back to the ER to get my IV, my saline bag, to get my fluids put in, and then, of course, I was feeling much better after that happening, but still not entirely well. And then got medications, and then I was sent home, and that entire thing cost me less than $100 to see the specialist, to get the IV, to get my medications, all less than $100. And the amount of time it took was very reasonable compared to ERs in the USA. As we know, healthcare in America is just a scam. So anyway, the day that we arrived to Karbala, I just basically went to the hospital. I couldn't do all the other things that were going to be taking place. Then the next day, we were supposed to visit some important sites, which of course I also could not do. So what were the sites? So they were visiting important sites, which were the actual battle sites of Karbala, where the Shias Imam Hussein was killed, and that is what Karbala is really well known for, and why Shias make a pilgrimage there every year. And in fact, the largest pilgrimage that happens anywhere in the world is to Karbala to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. So that is the largest pilgrimage, surpassing Hajj of Mecca. The largest pilgrimage that happens anywhere in the world is in Karbala every year to commemorate the martyrdom of the Prophet's grandson, Imam Hussein. So this day, on the 28th, we were supposed to visit important areas where the actual battles happened, where people were actually killed, and, you know, pay our respects and all of that. So of course I missed out on that because I was still sick. Then the 29th, still sick. So still not well enough, still not energized, still can't eat anything and keep anything down. December 29th. And on this day, we were supposed to visit some more important religious sites, as well as Samara, where, you know, are some ancient historical mosques. So that would have been very cool. I did end up visiting it, but I'll talk about that later. But, you know, with this particular group, again, missed everything on the 29th. The 30th, so on the 29th in the evening, I was feeling better. So I was able to go and perform my ziyarat, my visit, my pilgrimage to Imam Hussein's shrine. So I did go do that and had my visit there, which was a lifelong dream. So I was able to do that and perform prayers at the shrine. So I'm glad that I was able to do that. I think I was able to do that maybe one other night too, where I did go to the shrine. I can't remember, or maybe this was the first night. I honestly don't remember now. But I think in total I ended up going to the shrine only twice, and I think that this was the first time. So then we get to December 30th. Yes, so actually the 29th was the first time I visited the shrine in Karbala, and then the 30th we visited an orphanage in the morning. So we were able to see all these cute little Iraqi kids, you know, who were impacted by the war in Iraq with the US's invasion, and, you know, that left, you know, tens of thousands of orphans in Iraq. So we visited an orphanage, a school for kids, for orphans, you know, that's fully funded by donations, and just really nice to see those kids getting everything that they need, which includes food, clothing, you know, their education, everything. Then we were going to get on a bus to go to some important sites, and I started vomiting on the bus, and they actually pulled the bus to the side and made me get off and take a taxi back to the hotel. So that's what I had to do. So then later that evening, I was feeling well enough, so I went back to the shrine for a second time, which was nice. And then finally, let's see, December 31st is when we departed back to Baghdad. So getting back to Baghdad, couldn't really do anything, wasn't feeling that great. We got back like in the evening, didn't do anything. So then January 1st comes around, and so we again meet up with our original Baghdad tour guide, and then we decided to visit the ancient sites. So we first stopped off at this one place. I don't remember the name, but I'll, you know, include a caption of the name here, but it's one of the sites. It's an ancient building, and it's significant because it's one of like a freestanding arch of some kind. I can't remember, but you can look it up on Google, but it's important for its arch for some reason. But it's an ancient Persian building from the Persian Empire. So that was really cool to see. And then we went to Babylon, and Babylon was just awesome. So by this day I'm feeling better, but I still had my vomit bag with me just in case I would need to vomit, but did not vomit. And I think that this was the first day that I didn't vomit, which was really nice. So we went to Babylon and saw the ancient sites. What's interesting about Babylon is that the palaces, the lower levels of the walls were still kind of remaining. So in the photograph, you'll see that there's a difference in color between the bricks on top and the bricks on the bottom. The ones on the bottom are original from like however many thousands of years ago. The ones on the top were added by Saddam Hussein when he tried recreating these palaces. These palaces were so cool. And so we learned that they basically tried to create like a maze within the palace so that if enemies came, they would get lost within this maze, and just so freaking cool. So we like walked through the palaces and the maze of the palace, and then we ended up getting to a big throne room where the king would have sat. Really cool. Saw some ancient inscriptions still that are still left there that, you know, like the British didn't manage to steal yet. That they managed to leave because they did take a lot. They actually took the Gate of Ishtar. They took a lot of the old lions that were carved there and so on. So there's one ancient lion carving left, which, you know, I'll post a picture of here, but the rest apparently are in the British Museum. You know, so a lot of things were, of course, stolen by Europeans who went there and colonized and whatever, plundered and took things. But just very cool to see this ancient site and see remains and so on. And there's still a lot to be uncovered, apparently. So our tour guide told us that, you know, Iraq is a flat place. And so where you see hills, you know, these big mounds, you know that there's actually stuff underneath there that is still to be uncovered, because Iraq is flat. So if you see these hills and these mounds, that means there's things underneath there that still need to be excavated, and there's still quite a bit that needs to be excavated. But it was just really cool to be in this ancient site like that, you know, is like the cradle of civilization, and imagine what it would have been like back then. Honestly, if you've seen Game of Thrones, it reminded me of Game of Thrones. I don't remember what the various areas in Game of Thrones were called, but that one area that is like deserty and where Daenerys goes, and that's where she gets all the sullied people or whatever they're called. I can't remember. Like that area, like it reminded me so much of that. And I'm wondering if like that's where the inspiration came from. Just very cool. So yeah, so it was really cool to see Babylon. And that is all I believe we did on that day, is just visited that one ancient site. Oh, and we saw the only remaining statue or relief of Saddam Hussein. So this happens to be like a relief, and it's the only remaining one. And for some reason, there's people who are guarding it. I will say that personally, I think, yeah, Saddam Hussein was a brutal dictator. Like, obviously you don't want statues revering him, but at the same time, it's history. It's a part of history. So a part of me is glad that there's one statue remaining that shows this part of Iraqi history, because it is now history. You know, obviously he should not be revered. He should not be respected, but it's a part of history. So to see one relief remaining, I guess is a cool thing. Oh, and we did visit also on this day one of Saddam Hussein's palaces. So overlooking the ancient site of Babylon was one of Saddam Hussein's many palaces, and we were able to bribe the guard to get inside, because otherwise you can't visit it. So it's not like open to the public to visit. So we were able to bribe the guard to get inside this palace. Our tour guide did, and visit it, and it's just so interesting to see. Like you can imagine how incredibly beautiful it must have been at the time. So it apparently took 8 years to build, and Saddam only visited this palace 4 times because he had multiple palaces. And during the war and after the war, like during, it was plundered. So Iraqis came, took what they could. Americans at one point were stationed there. You could see graffiti from American soldiers. Everything has just been vandalized in this palace. Windows are broken. It just like looks like a war zone, basically. You know, pigeons have made it their home. It's just, yeah, just insane. It's just very surreal to be inside a place in which was a part of a war, and just to walk amongst the ruins, just very interesting and surreal. But yeah, you can imagine what a magnificent palace it probably was before it got, you know, plundered and destroyed. But that was cool. So that's another thing we got to do. So that was January 1st. And by the way, I did not celebrate New Year's Eve because I've never actually cared about New Year's Eve. January 2nd, which is my last day in Iraq. So as you can tell, the vast majority of the trip I was sick. So very few days I actually got to do stuff. January 2nd, so we spent going to Samarra, which is an ancient city, and which is also, you know, where some important holy sites are. So we got to visit these 2 old ancient mosques, and they have these spiral minarets. So you'll see the photos here. One of them you cannot go onto the minaret. You can't like walk to the top. The second one, you can do that. I opted not to because it was actually raining in the start of the day and the path was wet and my shoes did not have good traction. But my 2 sisters didn't go all the way to the top, but they made it close to the top. And then this other girl who was joining us on our tour, who happened to be a French doctor. So it was like 3 doctors and a lawyer, because my 2 sisters are a doctor. So she also happened to be a doctor. So she was on the tour with us this day. And so she made it all the way to the top and even climbed up on top to take like some selfies, and I was like terrified watching her. But yeah, so that was really cool that she went all the way to the top. So we visited Samara and visited these ancient sites. We visited 2 shrines on this day. So we visited the shrine, God, whose shrine is it? It was Musa Ikazam, I think, was one of the shrines we visited, and there was another shrine we visited. Oh my God, I'm trying to remember whose shrine that was. I don't remember. There was 2. So one of the shrines belonged to 2 imams of the Shias, because the Shias have 12 imams in total, and then one of the shrines belonged to 1 imam. And I will say this about all of the shrines, they are all incredibly beautiful. Like, they all, when you go inside, have these incredible like crystalline ceilings. They're just exquisitely adorned on the inside. Like, they are just the most exquisite, like luxurious looking buildings on the inside. Just absolutely incredible. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. The actual like caskets, like the actual boxes, things that the imams are buried in, you can't actually touch those because they are surrounded by kind of like a gate. Like, a gate makes it sound like it's an ugly thing, but it's actually really beautiful. So when you go, and if you want to touch it, you would touch the like gate part, not the actual coffin or whatever that the imam is buried in. So you can't actually go and touch that. But that's what people do when they go and visit these shrines. They just want to touch it and just ask, you know, not pray to the imam, because we don't pray to humans, but we pray for intercession because we believe that these are holy people who can intercede on our behalf to God and hopefully get our prayers answered. So that's what people are doing when they go to these shrines. They're not praying to the imams, they're praying to God while asking imams for intercession, basically, on their behalf. But yeah, these shrines are just incredibly adorned, just exquisitely adorned, and just so beautiful. And you know, they all look a little bit different, but they do all have some kind of similarities with like crystalline ceilings and all of that. So hopefully I would have posted up pictures of all the different shrines as I'm talking about them, which I will. But yeah, and getting into the shrines, so as a Muslim woman, you have to be covered up. You know, you have to wear what's called an abaya, which is like a long, you know, thing that covers you completely, doesn't show your body shape. You have to have your hair fully covered and stuff like that. So as long as you're fully covered, you should have no issues getting in. You just don't want to wear happy colors and, you know, colors that you want to try to wear neutral colors. At one point, I tried getting into one of the shrines wearing like this mauve color, and I was forbidden from entering because it seemed like too happy of a color. So they made me borrow a black chador to wear over what I was wearing so that I could enter. Yeah, so that's that, I guess. I want to talk about, so the return journey home was, I guess I'll just mention that, again, the people in Iraq are incredibly kind, just very, very helpful. Saw a number of tourists from other countries while I was in Iraq. I saw tourists from Austria, Spain, Japan, some other European country, I can't remember now. Portugal, I think, England. I saw tourists from England. I saw tourists from different Asian countries. So again, Iraq has opened up to tourism, and you will see tourists from other countries visiting, wanting to go visit these incredible historical sites. Getting into Iraq, not really an issue as long as you have the appropriate visa and stuff. Getting out of Iraq, oh my God, the Baghdad airport, never want to experience that again. I mean, someday I want to go back to Iraq since I was sick for the majority of this trip, but the Baghdad airport, leaving it, the amount of security lines you have to go through, the amount of times you have to put your luggage through security, through some kind of a check, insane, like just absolutely insane. Just such a hassle, such a big hassle. And I don't know what people are like, what they think people are smuggling in or out. I don't know if there's like a drug problem or what, but just security was super duper intense. I was worried about security in America, thinking that, oh, they've seen I've gone to Iraq and, you know, they're going to question me a lot. But being a US citizen, all I had to do was stand in front of a camera and scan my passport, and that was it. So no questioning whatsoever. So I was worried for no reason. I'm assuming that if you're not a US citizen, then it would be a problem. And I'm assuming that in the future, when I try to go somewhere and they see this big giant Iraqi visa in my passport, then maybe I might get questioned about it or something, or if I'm just trying to cross at the Canadian border, which one time I got a huge hassle. I had a huge hassle at the Canadian border one time when I was trying to get back into the US as a US citizen. So who knows, maybe in the future it might pose some problems, but getting back into America actually wasn't a problem. But from the time we left the hotel in Iraq, in Baghdad, to the time I got to my mom's house took more than 24 hours. And then I spent the night at my mom's house, and then the next day on Sunday, January 4th, continued my travel to my house. But over 24 hours of travel, it was so freaking exhausting. And I'm still suffering from jet lag, actually. I managed to get onto Iraqi time pretty quickly, but getting back onto US time has been really hard, and I've been falling asleep on my couch every night. Last night I fell asleep on my couch at around 5 p.m. so it's been rough. It's been rough. But yeah, so that's that. And I want to talk about stray animals in Iraq, and I'm going to do that in my next segment, and then kind of just start talking about the stray cats in America and what happened with them while I was gone. So I will just start a new segment to talk about that. So if you're interested in hearing about stray animals in Iraq, you can watch the next segment. So in Iraq, there are a lot of stray animals. In our hotel near Baghdad, there were a number of stray cats. And as I mentioned, I think I might have mentioned, took a lot of cat food with me. So I took canned cat food. I took churros, which are these tubes with like gravy in it that cats love. I took packets of tuna with me. So yeah, I had all of that. My sister had big bags of dry cat food with her. So in Iraq, in Baghdad, I would feed the stray cats around the hotel. There was one cat who looked like the hotel people actually really liked her. She seemed really well taken care of. Her fur was really nice. I did not look malnourished or anything. So when the security guards outside of the hotel would see me putting down cat food, they would go and actually get this cat, and she would follow them back to the food that I was feeding these cats. A few other cats in the neighborhood managed to find me, and so I was feeding them. One of them looked really sad, just really dirty, really sad, but thankfully he didn't look malnourished, but just a very dirty cat. Like I just wanted to like hug him and give him a bath and clean him. There was one little kitten, super vocal. I wish I could have rescued this kitten, just a very vocal kitten, just being like really loud, meow, 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 like wanting food. So I was really happy to feed this cat. There was obviously some cats that were related to each other, like a number of orange and white cats that looked like they were part of the same family. So just really happy to feed these stray cats. My sister, who has been to Saudi Arabia a number of times, I've never been, but she's been a couple of, or maybe 3 times now. She told me that the cats in Saudi Arabia look malnourished, are not taken care of, whereas the cats in Iraq do look like they are being fed at least, and just look better in general than the cats in Saudi Arabia. So at least that like put me somewhat at ease to hear that. I do follow a bunch of different stray cat groups on Facebook and Instagram that are based in the Middle East, whether that's like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Mecca, Medina, so on and so forth. I don't know why, but I just follow these groups and just stay up to date on what people are doing to help these poor cats. So just, I guess I'm glad to hear from my sister that the cats in Iraq generally looked better. I will say that in Iraq, when we would go to restaurants, the portions were massive, and so much food I feel goes to waste. So I would ask my tour guide, like, what happens with this food? And he's like, yeah, they just throw it away. And I'm like, that's such a waste. So what I started doing is taking all the leftover food and feeding it to the stray cats. And one day there was all this chicken that was left over, like so much chicken. So I brought it all back to the hotel, removed all the chicken from the bones, and it ended up being a lot of chicken. And I left it out on plates. So I had also taken a bunch of paper plates with me to Iraq. So I left it all out on plates. So I fed the cats as much as I possibly could while I was there. On my last day, I asked if I could buy cat food and leave it with the security guards, and all of them were like, no. Like everyone I asked was like, no. Like they just refused to take any food to continue feeding the cats while I'm gone. I don't know if they would get in trouble by the hotel or what, but they just didn't want to do that. At one point when I was near a bazaar, I saw these 2 cats, and I would walk around, like in my backpack, I always had cat food. So I was putting down some cat food for these 2 cats I saw near a bazaar, and this one guy, so there was a huge language barrier between me and the vast majority of people in Iraq because most people there don't speak English. But this one guy, he like gestured at me to come over, so I went over to him, and he's like, he pulled out a packet of cat food, and he was like showing me like, I want you to feed this to the cats. So I was like, oh wow, like here's this guy on his motorcycle just pulled out a bag of cat food from his backpack or whatever, and was like giving it to me to feed the cats when he saw that I was feeding cats food. So I was like, there are people who do care about the animals in Iraq. Like this guy just, you know, seemed like he was just stopping at the bazaar to conduct some kind of business and then be on his way. And he had cat food with him, so that made me happy. So yeah, and in general, the cats I did see here and there, none of them looked malnourished. Like no one looked like they had just skin and bones. Like they all looked like they would be able to find food. Of course, still a difficult life. It's not an easy life for these cats. Like I think that they really have to go through trash cans in order to find food and so on. So that's, you know, a rough part of their existence. And I do wish that people would make it easier. I do wish in the Middle East, people everywhere in the world, I wish people would be more kind and understand and be empathetic towards animals and want to do their part to take care of them. Which brings me to the stray cats in the US. So as I mentioned before I go anywhere, I always ensure that the stray cats are taken care of while I'm gone. Usually when I go somewhere, my sister takes over for me. So if I'm going to London for my annual trip, like my sister will feed the cats while I'm gone. However, this time around, she was also on this trip, so she could not take care of them. So one of my friends, now an ex-friend, long story, not that long of a story, but you'll hear it in a minute, volunteered to take care of these cats. So here is this person themselves offering to take care of the cats. So I took her before, you know, I went on my trip, took her to the colonies with me, showed her how everything is done in the winter time, because in the winter time I also do snow removal, and I have to show her how to remove the ice from the water bowls and where the snow needs to be removed from so that they can eat their food properly from the feeding stations and so on and so forth. So I showed her all of that. She didn't want to keep any of the food or supplies in her own house, so she had the keys to my house, and I laid out everything that she would need for the next few weeks, for the next couple of weeks. Like I laid out all the cans of food in my house so that they would be at room temperature, had all of the dry food available for her. The only thing she would need to do is rinse the plates. So I have multiple rotating melamine plates that the cats eat their wet food from. The bowls of dry food remain at the colonies, but the plates I would always rinse and then use new plates for wet food. And again, they're non-breakable, like safe plates for cats to eat from, but it requires rinsing them after you bring them back home. So 2 plates per colony and 4 cans of wet food per colony, and then 2 big bowls of dry food per colony, and then multiple bowls of water, warm water, right? So this friend, I took her to the colonies before I left and showed her how to do everything. She assured me that it would be fine and she would do a good job, you know? And this person does not work, by the way. They inherited a large sum of money many years ago and don't have to work. So they just essentially do nothing all day, really, truly. So this was a board gaming friend of mine, by the way. They have no obligations, you know, no children, nothing. They just literally do whatever they want during the day. So they have the time. I realize that taking care of cats is a time-intensive job, but I think that this person did not realize when they volunteered how time-intensive of a job it is. So the first day I'm gone, it's a Saturday, and they send me a message saying that this is the last time they're going to take care of the stray cats. And I'm like, okay, like you're sending me this message on the very first day that you're taking care of them. That obviously sends up red flags for me. And I'm now feeling anxious. Like, why are you sending me a message on the very first day saying that this is the last time you're ever going to take care of these stray cats? Like, of your 2-week stint of taking care of them. Made me really nervous, but I still responded as, you know, respectfully as I can. Like, you know, I was like, oh, hey, I understand it's a, you know, quite a bit of a, you know, a time-intensive job. I totally get that. Like, thank you for offering to take care of them this time. And if I'm ever away again, you know, I know that you're not available to take care of them, that I'll ask someone else. So I was like, okay, like that's how I responded, as respectfully as I could, trying to keep my anxieties to myself, like why she's telling me this on the very first day. Then, like 2 or so days after this, I get a message. So one of the colonies, there's this person who feeds there 3 times a week. She does not have the means to feed there every day, and she only feeds like 2 cans of food, and that's it. She doesn't do dry food or anything like that. And she knew that someone was going to be covering for me, and so she knew that when she goes there, the dry food bowls should have dry food in them. She should see plates that have been put out by this person who is covering for me, and so on. But this person messages me and says that it looks like no one has been feeding at the colony. Like there's no other plates. The dry food bowls are completely empty. So she was worried that the person who's covering for me is actually not feeding them. So at this point I send a message, and this is while at this point now I'm sick. I'm like, in my hotel room, just feeling like death, having to deal with this problem now of messaging back and forth, trying to figure out, are the cats being fed or not? So then I, messaged this person who is taking care of them, like, hey, I received this message. I took a screenshot of the message and sent it to her. I was like, I received this message, this person only feeds 3 times a week. They only are able to feed just 2 cans. It's really important that the cats still have their dry food bowls filled, and, that they get the 4 cans that I have set aside for this colony every day. Like, can you just tell me, like, did something come up? Were you not able to feed them? Like, and so this person got very angry and was like, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't trust me, like, then, I don't know what to say, but I am feeding them. So I was like, okay, well, I can't not believe her. Like, if she's saying she's feeding them, then I guess I have to believe her. But she did not respond very nicely. It was like a very harsh message. Even though my message to her was very respectful when I was trying to find out like what's going on. So then I responded and I was like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not like trying to offend you. I'm just trying to find out what's going on because, this other person is saying that, there was no food and, you're saying you are taking care of them. And I just wanted to make sure that nothing came up. And the reason I asked you is, if there is an emergency, then let me know so that I can find someone to cover for you. Like, I just want to make sure that these cats are being fed. Like, that's my priority. And I'm not like accusing you of anything. I just was trying to get information. And I said that to her. And then a few days after this, I've not responded, that was the message I sent to her, and she had responded, it's taken care of. So I just left it at that, did not say anything else. And, all I can do is hope that the cats are being taken care of. Then a few days after that, she sends me a really terrible message saying that taking care of the cats is a disgusting job and that it's a very time-intensive job and that I'm just being super ungrateful and accusing her of not taking care of the cats. She said that once she's done taking care of the cats, she's just going to leave my house keys on my doorstep. And that's that. And I'm like, okay, like, no, you should not be leaving someone's house keys on their doorstep so that any porch pirate can just come up, take the keys, and break into that person's house. Like, what is that? And she also said something very strange, which made absolutely no sense. She said that there was like people in cars. She's like, asking people to wait in cars is crazy. And I'm like, I have no idea at this point what she's even talking about. What people in cars waiting for who? Waiting for the cats? Waiting for her? Like, I have no clue what she's even talking about. But she's clearly like upset about something, and I have no idea what's going on with her. Oh, and she also said at this point that she's only going to be feeding the cats dry food and not be feeding them wet food for mental health reasons, because she needs as much distance from this as possible. So I'm like, oh my God, like, this has turned into such a dramatic, like, ordeal. Like, it should not be like this. Like, you offer to perform this community service while I'm gone, and it's turned into this huge drama that does not need to be happening. Like, you offer to do something, just please do what you offer to do. But now she's saying she's not going to feed the wet food to the cats. She's only going to feed them dry food, and she's just going to leave my keys on my doorstep once she's done doing this. So at this point, I'm like, I cannot deal with her anymore. So I found someone else. I'm in my hotel room in Iraq trying to find someone else to cover for me, which I did. So then I sent her a message. I didn't even respond to all the crazy things she said. I simply responded saying, hey, please leave my keys inside of my house, twist the lock on your way out, and, I'm relieving you of your duties because I found someone else. Did she return the keys? No. I had to message her husband the very next day in order to get her to return my keys. So I took screenshots of all of the messages so that her husband could see that none of this behavior was warranted, that I never said anything disrespectful to her, that I was nothing but nice to her. So I sent her husband a message then, and after sending her husband a message, she was finally able to return my keys to me inside my house. just insane. So then my brother-in-law, who has a set of my keys for emergencies, went into my house, retrieved my keys, and was able to give the keys to someone else, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so that ended up being this whole ordeal, which I was just really upset about. And I'm just like, why are people like this? Like, you offer to do a job. Maybe you didn't realize how time intensive of a job it is, but like, you don't even work. Like, you have all day free. You offer to do this. Like, just suck it up for 2 weeks and do the job that you offered to do. Like, I didn't ask her. She willingly offered when she found out I was going away for 2 weeks and asked me, oh, if you need someone to take care of the stray cats, I'll be willing to do it. Like, just like, I don't even know what to say. Like, you know, it's just really upsetting that she called taking care of the stray cats a disgusting job, and she called them fucking cats. Like as someone who cares deeply about these stray animals, you know, getting these messages while I'm an ocean away caused me so much anxiety. And I could tell that the cats were so happy to see me when I came back. So, and the colony number 1 was just in complete disarray. Like, when I got back, like, you could tell that no one had been shoveling or trying to clear the area of snows. It snowed a lot while I was gone. Like, there were a couple of winter storms. So, you know, I was just so anxious and feeling just so worried about these poor cats while I was away. So all it makes me realize is that now I can't ever go somewhere with my family, because my sister is honestly at this point the only person I can trust to take care of these cats while I'm gone. Like, here is someone who had offered to take care of them and just turned out to be kind of psychotic about the whole thing, and I don't know why. And then when I did come back from Iraq, I sent her a message responding to some of the crazy things she said, and her response was, too long, didn't read, goodbye. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's the end of that friendship. Like, I just don't understand. And yeah, people, you just don't really know people until something happens like this. So yeah, so that is my whole stray cat story. And I'm just you know, like, I just don't understand people. I just, like, this was a community service. Like, you could have not looked at it as just a favor to me, but you could have looked at it as performing a community service, because it is a community service to take care of stray animals. And I just think that this world could use more people who do their part. There are just not enough people who do their part to take care of animals. And based on this person's reactions and their behavior, like, it should show you that it is a time-intensive job taking care of animals. People may not realize how much it goes into taking care of stray animals. And yeah, so I don't know, I'm just really, the whole thing was just really upsetting, but I'm glad to be back home and taking care of the cats myself again, because at this point it's like, who can I trust? It's just really, it was just an awful experience. So yeah, so that just made the whole Iraq trip a little bit worse than it needed to be. But yeah, anyway, that's that. So I just wanted to share that. So if you are someone who, and I know a couple of my viewers are, who takes care of stray animals, thank you so much for the service, because there's not many people in this world who understand how important it is, how rewarding it is, and apparently there are people who view it as a disgusting job. So yeah, so that's that. So yeah, so let's move on. So for Fiction Book Club, I have 2 suggestions. Please let me know which of these books would interest you. R.F. Kuang's Catabasis, which seems really interesting to me, or V.E. Schwab's Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. So these are 2 books I'd be interested in reading. So Sandra and anyone else who joins, please leave your selection in the comments below, and then we will hopefully start with this book for next time. Next video, I'll like select a certain number of chapters that we can read, and in the meantime, you can, you know, get the book and stuff like that. So please let me know which of these 2 books would interest you for our next fiction book. So for Nonfiction Book Club, we were supposed to read like roughly the first half of chapter 9 of Iran, A Modern History, and chapter 9 is called Chaotic Democracy, Oil Nationalization and Denied Hopes, 1941 to 1953. I did not read the entirety of the first half, and I'm actually not going to discuss it right now. I just wanted to mention that that's what we were supposed to do, because I actually did read a certain number of pages, a little bit shy of the half of the chapter we were supposed to read, but I'm really low on time right now. I started shooting this too late. Also, I just wanted to mention it because Iran is obviously coming up a lot in the news. It's been confirmed that there are Mossad agents, Israeli agents in Iran trying to stir up the protests. You know, obviously there is going to be a lot of news coverage of Iran as the US and Israel gears up to attack Iran. So now is as good a time as any to learn about Iran's history. So if you haven't joined in yet, please join us in this nonfiction book club in reading this book, Iran: A Modern History, because history is very important to understanding how Iranians feel today and why they feel the way they do today, and the different factions of Iranians. Like, not all Iranians have the same opinions, especially right now. Like, you have pro-Israeli Iranians, and then you have Iranians that do support the government and do not want to see the current Islamic government overthrown. So I do want to talk about chapter 9. So I will talk about chapter 9 in its entirety in the next video, because again, I did read almost all of the half we were supposed to read for this week, but I don't have time to discuss it. So please read all of chapter 9 if you haven't started yet for next week, because, you know, that is the beginning of, you know, basically, you know, the start of the coup and Mossadegh being overthrown, and then that leads to the Islamic Revolution, and here we are today. So it's all very important stuff. So if you want to be informed about what's going on, join our book club and do buy the book Iran: A Modern History by Abbas Amanat. It's very, like, it's not easy reading, it's very academic reading, but now it's a perfect time to get informed about what's happening. And you know, there's too many people in this world who give their opinions without actually having any knowledge or education to back it up. So don't be one of those people. Educate yourselves about what's happening in Iran, please. So join our nonfiction book club and read chapter 9 for next time. And to everyone who did read the first half, my apologies for not discussing it in this video, but I'll discuss the entirety of chapter 9 in the next video. Okay, let's move on. So I'm going to try to keep this week's rant of the week short because I have somewhere to be and I'm running low on time. So firstly, I want to say that Renee Good being killed by ICE was an absolutely horrific terrorist attack. Like, that should be considered domestic terrorism. ICE should not have a right to guns. ICE should not even exist. And the fact that they shot this woman the way they did when, you know, there was no threat of her, like, video footage clearly shows from all different angles that that ICE agent was not at risk of being killed, being run over by a car, being hit by a car. Like, she was turning away from him. There was no reason for him to kill her, but he did. And so we saw this US citizen, this white woman, being killed in a really horrific way. And, you know, that rightfully so led to people being outraged. So my rant of the week is the fact that, you know, people like me who have been vocal about the genocide had been warning people how ICE agents and law enforcement in the USA are trained by the IDF. Like, this has been well known for quite some time. So like, we warned everyone that the tactics you see used in Israel and Palestine against Palestinians by the IDF, by the Israeli occupation forces rather, will be used in America. That it's only a matter of time before you see that come to American soil. And we started seeing it happening before Renee Good was killed, but even, you know, more so now than ever. And, you know, now we see so many people in the board game industry expressing outrage. And it just really upsets me that so many people who have been silent about the genocide are now very vocal about Renee Good being killed, when people like me have been trying to warn you about things like this. And there is a certain content creator, and he posted a video saying that if you are one of the people who was silent about the genocide, then congratulations, this is your fault, because you are normalizing this kind of brutality. Like, when your tax dollars are being used to kill Palestinians in the most horrific ways, like, you know, worse ways even than Renee Good was killed, and you are utterly silent about it, you're normalizing that brutality. You're saying, hey, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to express outrage about it because it's, you know, it's brown people, it's Muslims who are being killed, it's Arabs who are being killed. So I don't need to express outrage about it, even though it's my own tax dollars that are doing that killing. So everyone who was silent about it, like, congratulations, it's your fucking fault that this is now what we're seeing in America and are going to continue to see. Like, you should have spoken up when it was happening to people in another country because of your tax dollars, but you did not speak up. So before I left for Iraq, this one content creator who I've called a coconut before on my channel and have called out for being a sellout, Board and Shield, who is this Muslim content creator, South Asian Muslim content creator. He had made a comment on someone else's video or post on Instagram saying that one of his top 4 content creators is Board Game Co. And then I had called him out in a story of mine. And I said, oh, that's rich. Like, here is someone with a watermelon emoji who actually has not once used his platform to raise awareness about the genocide in Palestine, but still has a watermelon emoji just to like pat himself on the back in his bio on Instagram, now saying that a Zionist is one of his top content creators. So the person, whose post he had commented then on, Board Game Therapist, must have alerted him to this fact, because as I mentioned previously in another video, Board and Shield had stopped looking at my stories when I explicitly called him out in a story of mine, where I explicitly targeted him by saying, if you're a Muslim and you're looking at my stories and you've never called out Palestine, then fuck you. He had seen that story and then he had stopped looking at my stories. But did he ever still say anything about Palestine? No. But Board Game Therapist, who checks all my stories, must have alerted him to the fact that I was calling him out in a story of mine, because now Board and Shield is looking at the story, messages me and says, oh, Board Game Co. is a Zionist? I didn't know that. So then we had a little bit back and forth in messages, and he said one of the stupidest things ever. He said in one of his messages, like, oh yeah, remaining neutral and silent about the genocide is no longer acceptable. He said it's no longer acceptable. I can't remember his exact words, but he said something like, oh, it's no longer an acceptable position, or it's no longer right to do. And I'm like, it's never fucking been acceptable or right to remain silent. Like, the fact that you think at one point in time it was okay for you to remain silent and neutral about Palestinians being killed is fine. Like, what the fuck? Like, what does that even say about you? Like, so I gave him an analogy to explain to him why neutrality and silence is never acceptable and why it actually does do harm. And then after that, he's like, oh, that's a really good analogy. I'm going to try to do better. So this all took place before I went to Iraq. So he said in his message to me that he's going to do better, and he will, in fact, use his platform to raise awareness about Palestinians. But actually, I'm actually just going to pull up his messages, because I actually want to find that exact phrase he used, because I thought it was just the stupidest thing he ever said. So yeah, let's see what he said. Oh yeah, he said, no longer is net neutrality or silence on all social/political topics good enough. It was never fucking good enough. The fact that he felt silence and neutrality on his own brethren in Palestine being brutally murdered was good enough. Like, I don't even fucking know what to say to that. Like, that to me shows that this is a person I could never ever respect. So anyway, so this was back in December before I went to Iraq, and he said he would then use his platform for good. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, I'm really happy that you're now understanding that silence is not good enough when it never fucking was, and that you should speak out about the genocide in Palestine. So then I come back, and I'm checking his stories, still hasn't said anything about Palestine, not once, come back from Iraq. And then he makes a post on Instagram, saying something, and I call out one of the authors that he's mentioned in this post as being a Zionist. I'm like, hey, FYI, Brandon Sanderson is a Zionist, so you might want to reconsider promoting his books and so on. And then he, again, messages me, he's like, oh, can you show me proof that Brandon Sanderson is a Zionist? So I was like, I'll tag you in a post, blah, blah, blah. And then again, I'm like, hey, I still haven't seen you call out, or raise awareness about the genocide. Like, it's been, so long since we exchanged those last messages. And he's like, oh, you're right. So then he went into my stories and shared a story that I had shared about Palestine into his stories. So he did one thing. I highly doubt he's ever going to do it again. Honestly, I really do not believe him when he says that he's going to do better and actually try to raise awareness about the genocide. So I still view him as a sellout until I actually see him doing this consistently. So yeah, and a sellout is not just someone who promotes Zionism or products by Zionists, or ignores what a sellout is not someone who simply will in the board game industry play Zionist games by Zionist publishers or Zionist designers, and etc. A sellout, the definition of a sellout is someone who you know, compromises on his or her own personal values and integrity for personal gain. And that gain can be gaining more followers, it can be gaining engagement, it can be getting free games, and so on. So if this person is claiming to be pro-Palestinian and anti-genocide, by them remaining silent so that they can continue to gain more followers, because, you know, they want those followers who are even pro-genocide, because they want as many followers as they can get. That is still being a sellout. Like, being a sellout is when you compromise on your own personal values so that you can gain something from it. So it doesn't have to do with just playing certain games or promoting certain games and so on. It also has to do with your complete and utter silence about a genocide which you claim to care about. Like, you are claiming to care about this genocide, but then remaining utterly silent, and even viewed being silent as good enough, which is just so fucking stupid. So anyway, so that is something I wanted to talk about. But going back to Renee Good's murder, so Board Game Therapist recently made a post, and he called out, you know, people in the industry who are supporting, you know, justifying Renee Good's murder, people who are, you know, still staying silent about the fascism in America, etc. And he called it out, and he's like, if you, you know, are silent, or if you, I don't remember his exact words, so I'm not gonna like try to reiterate everything, but he basically made a post about it, and he's like, if you support what happened to Renee Good, or, you know, you're against me for speaking out against it, then, you know, you can just fuck off, like unfollow me. So he made this post that got so many responses, and he, you know, he was like, oh, I'm not afraid if I lose followers or publisher deals, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, great, like here's this white dude who we know is not gonna lose as many followers as someone like me when she posts something like that on Instagram. Like, I kid you not, every time I post a story about something related to Zionism, you know, or anything like that, the genocide, whatever, I always lose followers. Like, I've been stuck at this one static number where I might gain 2 followers and then lose 3, then gain 1 and then lose 4. Like, I've just been stuck there. Like, I have not gained any followers like in a couple of years now since the genocide started. So here he made this post, and everyone's like, you know, oh, I appreciate you so much. Like, we need more people like you. People who've never once said one word condemning the genocide. And did this person lose followers? No, in fact, he gained followers. Like, this is what happens in this industry. When a white person, you know, uses their voice, you know, they're seen as the savior. But like, when a colored person like me or a Muslim person like me does it, like, I'm still seen as dangerous. And I just fucking don't understand this. Like, it's just completely mind-boggling, but we know why that is. Like, it's stupid, and, you know, it happens, and people who are white have this privilege that people like me just do not. Like, I am not privileged enough to be able to condemn a genocide and not lose followers, but in fact gain them for being outspoken and courageous. Instead, I'm viewed as being problematic then. Like, it's just insane. So yeah, and then I noticed that one of the designers and now a board game publisher, Paul Solomon, who previously I, you know, commended on my channel for raising awareness about the genocide, he has seen my stories. He is aware that Alex Radcliffe of Board Game Co. is a fucking Zionist. Yet, Alex shared this quote after Renee Good's murder, which a lot of people have been sharing. But the irony of a Zionist sharing this quote and then looking at the people who liked this post of his on Facebook, and then Paul Solomon shared this post of his on Facebook, and it infuriated me. Like, you people just are fucking not getting it. You just do not fucking understand still what Zionism is, how it equates to apartheid and racism and genocide and just everything evil. Like, you still don't understand how Zionism is like the root cause of so much evil in America too. Like, how are you still this fucking stupid and uninformed? Like, I just don't fucking understand how people in this industry are so fucking stupid and willing to turn a blind eye to what Zionism is. And I'm still the only person in this industry shouting about it. So to see someone like Paul Solomon share a Zionist post on his Facebook page just like and to see the people who are liking it, people like Jillian, who claim to be pro-Palestinian, who organized a fundraiser for the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund a few years ago without once mentioning the word genocide or why a fundraiser was even needed. Like, this is not pro-Palestinian activism. If you cannot even mention the word genocide, if you are not addressing the root cause of this genocide and you are liking posts from Zionists, you are not fucking pro-Palestinian. No, you are absolutely not fucking pro-Palestinian if you are liking things from a fucking Zionist. It's no different than liking posts from someone who's a part of the Ku Klux Klan or a fucking Nazi or someone who's completely anti-trans, like, and you claim to be pro-trans rights. Like, it's just so fucking insane and infuriating. Like, this industry just infuriates me. Like, the people in this industry are still so fucking stupid. I just cannot deal with it. Like, I just don't understand what it takes for these people to fucking educate themselves. It's completely mind-boggling. Yeah, so anyways, that is my rant of the week. Like, just fucking educate yourselves about Zionism. Please fucking educate yourselves. God. For this week's question of the week, let me know what other games similar to Etherstone and Res Arcana exist that you like and which one you prefer. So if you've played both Res Arcana and Etherstone, which of those two do you prefer? If there's other games that are similar to that, please leave their names in the comments below and tell me which one is your favorite. And until next week, bye.